Welcome to another episode of the Hoop Journal podcast. I'm your host Dion, joined as always by my host Mitch. Mitch, how we doing today?
Hello. I'm feeling fantastic. I can't wait to get to all these wonderful rookies that we're going to talk about to start today. But before we even begin any of that, I just want to say, from the bottom of the Hoop Journal podcast heart, that we are so grateful for the recent 1% increase in viewership in the past two pods. It has been instrumental for our mental fortitude to continue producing this content for you.
Yeah, we appreciate all the support. Yeah, everyone who's been listening to this point, if with any level of consistency, we really appreciate it. But we're taking the pod to a new level, man. As you can see, we got the video rolling, the mic is set up, we're good to go. Mitch and his unpredictable backgrounds, we're rolling. We're firing on all cylinders here. And like you said, yeah, we're talking about rookies today. I wanted to just have a discussion about who we think might be making all rookie teams. Some discussions about moving forward, which rookies we really like who could have big roles for their teams moving forward. So I wanted to just preview our picks for the two all rookie teams. I think we could skip past Chet and Wemby. I mean, obviously those are going to be
Oh,
the top two
really?
names.
Oh, damn.
I don't think we
Okay.
need to spend too much time on them. Obviously, they're going to be on everyone's list. They're one and two. I think that Chet has sort of fallen behind in the rookie of the year race. I feel like Wemby has really solidified himself as the better player, but obviously those are one and two. We don't have to go too deep into that. But give me your we'll start with the top five. Who are your next three names for your all rookie first team?
Okay. So I think low key another lock is Brandon Miller. I
Hmm.
think I think the way that it's gonna trickle out is you're gonna probably see because Chet has played so many like in-betweener spots this season. Your two forwards are probably gonna be obviously Chet and Wemby. Or your three, four,
It's
and
no,
five is
the rookie
probably
teams have always been
positionless.
positionless, right?
Positionless.
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
So then at that point, it's going to be Brandon Miller, Chet, and Wemby. I think like as a lock. I think because of how well he was the first like 40, 30 games or so, Jaime Hackers Jr. kind of has to
Yeah.
be a first teamer. I know that the addition of Scary Terry has taken away touches from him, and positionally, it's weird because like Miami went all year being like, no, we do not want to play Jovic at all. We hate him. We hate every single young guy we have on our roster. And then we're like, wait a minute. Let's play him a lot. And then we'll play Martin a lot too. And then we'll play Duncan Robinson a lot. So they've had like a lot of like rotational changes as my boy Jaime Jaquez Jr. drains a three right now. It's a little weird to me that, remember at the start of the season, you were like, oh my God, this guy's like, he could be rookie of the year. And then
Hmm.
trades happen and then touches get taken away. And then he falls to fourth. But I think he's easily first team lock. My next one might be really weird because like some people might think that it's like Podzimski or like Lively, but I've actually got Keontae George as my first teamer. I think you can make a very good argument between like Podzimski and Keontae. I don't think you could say like Cam Whitmore or the Thompson twins first team right now. I don't think you
Yeah.
could like really make that. But I mean, if it really came down to it, I'd probably lean Keontae more just in terms of like right away what he was able to do in
Right.
terms of like impact right off the bench, a great scorer. Weirdly, like a really solid passer, because that's not what I was like kind of advertised to look out for right as the
Hmm.
season started.
Hmm.
But that's my first team. Any debate you have for those other two spots there? Because I think the top three are solidified.
I think the top four I would say are solidified. I think Brendan
Okay.
Miller and Jaime are definitely going to be first team. Like you said, Jaime just coming in right away and looking like he had a chance at, winning the award itself. I think he definitely, despite his role diminishing slightly as the season has gone on, I still think he's pretty much a lock for the top five. The fifth spot is really where it really opens up. I like Keonta. He's on my second team. I actually went in a different direction. I went with Bilal Coulibaly. I think I know, a little bit of a pick out of left field, but when it comes to all rookie teams, two of the things that I look for to like sort of separate guys, tiebreakers, that sort of thing is how good were you right away? How long did it take for you to adjust the NBA game and have an impact? And how many total minutes you played? I think total minutes for rookie of the year has the biggest impact over any other award. I think MVP, it's something to look at too. But getting minutes as a rookie and actually earning playing time, I think is a huge sign towards how good you actually are. And Bilal is, I want to say third or fourth in total minutes. And I haven't watched a ton of them, right? Like I'm not watching the Wizards on a nightly basis, but when I do tune into the Wizards, like he's consistently making good plays. You know what I mean? Like there's not really like one aspect of his game that stands out. I guess maybe his defense is probably the one thing that stands out with him, but just like a smart offensive player. Like fits in, doesn't really try to do too much, doesn't take away touches from other guys, but um can score at all three levels. And I don't know. I just consistently see him making good plays, and the numbers also bear that out too. So I put him in as my fifth spot, but it does feel pretty open. Like it's the top four. It's Chet and Wemby in the 1-2. Miller, I think, probably has an edge over Jaime for the three spot. But they're 3 and 4, no doubt. And then five through, I mean, there's a lot of guys here. I have a pretty long list here. But number five is pretty open. But I went with Koulibaly just because he was good right away. Like he was in the rotation from the jump and proved that he belonged to be there. And he's just been consistent, you know. So
Yeah,
I gave him the nod. But Keontae, I think, is a really good pick as
yeah.
well.
Had it not been for Shamit taking over his starting spot for a little bit there,
Hmm.
I would be like, yeah, Koulibaly's probably like, five or six. But for a while there, I mean, it's not his fault that his rotation has been fucking terrible. Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to give him a little benefit of the doubt. He plays for the Wizards, which is just
yeah,
an absolute shit show over there, and he's at least been like competent, which I think says a lot.
yeah. I mean, like for me, there's guys like I could make a legitimate like case for like a Cam Whitmore, Derek Lively kind of thing, but it's more or less me trying to like argue against some of the other picks rather than
Hmm.
argue for them to be there.
Right,
So
right.
I think the second team is a lot harder to assemble because there's so many guys where I could be like, hey, you look at Grady Dick's past 20 games, it's looking pretty fucking good. But
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. It really you're splitting hairs. So that's why I lean towards the tiebreakers of how good you were right away and just how many total minutes you played, you know. Because like a guy like Cam Whitmore or someone like GG Jackson, probably one of the 10 best rookies in this class, right? But just have not played the minutes. Like it took a while for them to come on. We're judging them on their 82 game rookie season. And so if
yeah,
it took
it's not
them.
rookie of the last 30 games, it's
Right. It's
rookie
it's
of the
not like
entire
who do you
year
think
kind
are
of
the
thing.
10 best players right now? It's who had the 10 best rookie seasons. So
Yeah.
Cam Whitmore and Gigi Jackson are two guys for me that, and Grady Dick too, because like you said, he's been really good over the last 20 games or so. So those guys probably aren't going to make it for me just because the first half of the season didn't really do too much, but definitely a case for like who are the 10 best rookies from this class for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Scoot has kind of figured it out, but there's no way in fuck I'm putting him on a rookie
No.
like list like that. Like not to be disrespectful, but I think it's to the point where the turbulent start was so bad that like
Yeah, it's hard to recover from. The expectations were so high and it started off so poorly. It would have taken like a really huge
yeah,
turnaround for people to consider him. Yeah, I don't really think like he was on my long list here, but
yeah.
I
Well,
wouldn't be
and like,
shocked if.
Jordan Hawkins is another name where it's like
Mm.
he's flashed a lot of good stuff, but then
Yeah, that's someone who just doesn't get enough minutes, man.
yeah,
Like I know the Pelicans have a ton of guys, but he was getting plenty of minutes consistently early on in the season, and he had like back to back 30 point games if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
He had two huge back to back games. But now he got sent down to the G League. Like he's not really consistent in the rotation, but it does feel like no one in the Pelicans rotation is because of, the injuries and just how many guys they have. They're always rotating guys
yeah.
around, but that's someone that moving forward should definitely get more minutes.
Like if you asked me like 4 weeks ago, I would have had like Cason Wallace on this list.
Hmm.
I would have
Hmm.
been like, oh man, you're splitting hairs between like if you're even, putting both Thompson twins on the list at this point. But like I think now we've gotten to the point where like we can safely be like, all right, these are who the 10 best rookies have been so far. And like you could toss three names in, but again, it's more like, oh, yeah, like I'm not mad either way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you've got Keontae in your fifth spot. You mentioned Lively. Um, who else makes up sort of your
Like
second team?
if you don't have like Pod on that first team, because I assume voters will want to, just because like okay, the charges thing is like a really good headline to be like more than 20 teams in the NBA. It's like not a lot of teams are taking charges, whatever. For me it's like I can visually see his impact regardless of looking at like the pedestrian like 9, 5, and 4, like that's whatever. We're not looking at like crazy eye popping numbers because Chet and Wemby have those
Hmm.
already. But I do believe that both Thompson twins will make it because it's a good storyline. I would actually say Cam Whitmore has a very, very good chance to make that second team if, and this is a huge if they stop giving him these do not play 23 minutes, 9
Right.
minutes, 31 minutes, 6 minutes, 15 minutes. Like if
Yeah.
they just consistently give him like 20 minutes a game, I think he's a lock for that second team. Um, you kind of hemmed and hawed about Lively when I said Lively because it's like I think he's on the downward trend, if I'm being honest. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Ever
I
since
think
Gafford came
just
in, yeah.
because of Gafford's
Yeah.
acquisition. Um, I mean, like half of me wants to like say that it's like 100% lock that a guy like Whitmore makes it because he's one of those guys where I'm like really stuck on. Like I've seen so
Hmm.
many good things of
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah. No
such a
doubt.
good comeback story, but like I don't know. Like I'm not too mad if he doesn't make it, but at the same time, like if you were to throw a guy like for example Scoot, just because he's picked it up a little bit better on the second team, I think that's a little undeserving. Like because again, it's not the last 30 games that raise your eyebrows. It's the first 30 that made you go,
Yeah.
"Whoa, you stink like hot
And
piss."
it's not even like he hasn't even had a Cam Whitmore stretch or a GG Jackson stretch.
No,
Like Scoot was disappointing to start the season, and yeah, he's been better. He's slowly, each phase of the season he seems to slowly be figuring some things out. But at no point have I really felt like, oh wow, that was a great 3 game stretch from Scoot, or man, what great back to back and forth. Like really hasn't been that way at all. So yeah, I think an all rookie team for him would probably be pretty undeserving. Uh,
yeah,
I agree with you with Cam Whitmore. If he finds a consistent spot in the rotation and he's able to, you know, rally up the or tally up the minutes, then yeah, I could see him getting a second team spot. Right now, my second team, I have Keontae on there because he didn't make my first. I do have Lively on the second team. We'll see how his role evolves for the rest of the season, but I do think to this point, given how good he was right away, I think he's a second team guy. Pods for sure. I mean, I almost forgot to put Pods because I almost forgot he was a rookie. That's just sort of like the type of player that he is. You know what I mean? He's just such like a polished player. Like,
he's a poised player that makes
yeah,
you
yeah,
go, "Wait, you're not like a fourth year guard. You're like
exactly.
this is your
Yeah.
first
So
year."
I don't say I almost forgot him, but like he came to my mind later than he should have because I hardly even think of him as a rookie. But yeah, he's a second team lock for me. And then I got Asor Thompson. Um, I don't want to say considerably ahead of Amen, but to me, like he's definitely been the better rookie. I still believe in Amen as like the higher ceiling guy because just he has like more like lead creator sort of upside. Asor definitely feels like he's going to evolve into a complementary wing, but he's been better. Like he's had more of an opportunity in Detroit, and I just think just based on what we've seen so far, I think Asor over Amen um, for the all rookie teams. And then my last spot, I got Kassan Wallace. I still feel like he's top 10. There's a lot of guys to consider. Like all the guys that we've talked about could all be in the mix. The only guy I think that we haven't talked about, Anthony Black, I think he's been much better than I anticipated. I was a little surprised he went as high as he did in the draft, but he's been pretty solid. He's another guy that doesn't have like a consistent every game spot in the rotation the way maybe he should. But um, yeah, I got Kassan Wallace, and then plenty of guys that I think are in the mix.
Okay, I see you. Um, a guy that definitely hasn't gotten the minutes or the production, but I think a kind of like cool idea is I like Taylor Hendricks a lot, but not to be considered for a rookie team. But I just what he's flashed to me, especially on like a Jazz team that could easily just plug him in, like it makes me wonder like how many guys are we gonna see like instead of a sophomore slump just absorb more touches and more usage from teams that are like shedding off people like how good is it like are like the I don't want to say C tier rookies but like how good do you think the Grady Dicks, the Taylor Hendricks, the Isaiah Joes of the worlds, like not to clump those three players in the same tier, but you know what I mean, like the players who you're not talked about on a daily day basis, who don't have TikToks made about them. How good are their non sophomore slumps going to be? Because I think we're at a point, and I think this is where the paradigm is shifting, where those second year, third year players aren't going to hit like a brick wall, sort of
Hmm.
say. Like you're more or less going to say, well, I think a good example of everybody that thought Mobley was going to be that like third year player and like Cade that third year player. And then Scottie comes out of the mix and becomes that player that you like look to see that kind of like idea. I think we're at the point where
Same thing happened during their rookie years, by the way.
That's what I mean. Like, I think what we're seeing is like the adjustment period is way shorter now. Like, I think you're going to see right out of the gate, okay, turbulent 15 games, they figured it out. Like, obviously, generational talents in Chet and Wemby, and yes, I'm going to call Chet a generational talent before anybody gets on that. I think those guys are special cases, but I think you can take a look at Brandon Miller, for example, a guy who had every intangible to succeed. Like, literally, his measurements, his athleticism, his IQ for the game, he was not going to fail. But still, there were people who were like, really over Scoot? Like, really? Like this? You're really gonna just take the 3-and-D wing that
Hmm.
potentially could be like, nah, he's shown flashes of looking like a Paul George. So
I think some of that is tied to Jabari Smith coming in the year before. For whatever reason, people like to compare prospects to prospects of like the year before
year
draft.
prior,
So
literally 12 months earlier. That's but like
it
it's like
makes it makes
redraft,
no
redraft.
sense. It makes no sense that like anything that Jabari Smith Jr. did as a rookie has any impact on who Brandon Miller is as a prospect. But there's a lot of like people comparing those two and people feeling like, oh, maybe the ceiling isn't really there for Brandon Miller because of Jabari Smith Jr. Didn't really make sense, but I think that was part of it.
I see, and I get like people not wanting to jump the gun on players like that, but I think if you look at it, like I would much rather have, and I was one of the guys who like was heavily advocating for Brandon Miller prior to the draft, but I would rather have the, especially if I'm a team like the Hornets, where you have shot yourself in the foot so many times that taking the volatile prospect over the safe prospect might not actually be a good idea. Like if you're the Spurs, it doesn't like this draft example for like this upcoming one. Like if you don't take Topic, like okay, like you have your options are so open because you're an ass fire of a team that
Hmm.
you don't need a volatile prospect. You just need a contributing winning prospect. And I think as one of the last few good things Michael Jordan has ever done for the franchise, drafting Brandon Miller was a good decision. Now, he may be the GOAT, but he was probably one of the, in my generation, top 10 worst head office people that I've
Yeah,
ever seen.
easily of the last 20 or so years. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. But that's enough harping on Charlotte. Is it just long of the short of the long is players coming in now aren't gonna have that like, oh, I'm gonna fucking Tobias Harris is gonna bully this guy. It's like, nah, they're gonna adjust to the up and down game of the NBA, and they're gonna be contributing winning players. And I think this draft is a good example of that because like you can look at Sar and be like, oh, he's the clear number one prospect, but it doesn't make your mouth water as much as the Chets, the Bankeros, the Wembanyamas did of the world. So
Hmm.
you know, that's my view. That's my rant onto this upcoming draft.
That's fair. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, guys still have, their welcome to the NBA moments and things like that, but yeah, the adjustment period is getting shorter and shorter, it feels like, especially for these top guys. So, yeah, I think that's a good take. Any other rookies you think worth a mention? And then I have some superlatives that I want to ask you about.
In terms of rookies that I want to mention, I do just want to say, so shout out Lucas Burns, NBA in depth. He has now copyrighted what is called the Garland rule, which
Mm,
is rookie guards will struggle just based off of ball pressure, usage, getting ready for the up and down game, athleticism in the NBA. People who thought Grady Dick, for example, was going to come in and immediately light up the NBA by being one of the best shooters, 2016 Clay Thompson, Game 6 Clay, shout out Squidward. If they really thought that he was going to be, that kind of flamethrower right away, unfortunately that was just your own disposition belittling your idea of what the NBA actually is about. I think if you take any collegiate or world level athlete that played in like the FIBA ACB, Euro League, Spain League, German League, NCAA, whatever you want to do, there is going to be just a conditioning adjustment to get in the NBA.
hmm.
Because as you can see in the past 20 games, obviously his jump shot has returned. But those mechanics, if you're drafted for a specific thing like a sharpshooter, those mechanics don't disappear. You just have to get used to the fact that now every NBA player can and will keep up with you. They
Right.
can chase you off the line. So I like the Garland rule of give these players some fucking breathing room because like they will figure it out. It's just a matter of when, not if. So, as we come into the next season, some of the wings and guards that get drafted this year, again, don't jump ship. Don't sell your stock 15 games in just because they're not putting up 20 and 8 on 44% from the three. Like it is this. We talked about a short adjustment period, but the physicality is the main thing. The intangibles and the skill set. That's why you got there. Then it's just about adjusting your body.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, the skills that he has are all obviously NBA caliber. That's what got him drafted. But the adjustment period that players go through when they get to the NBA is the speed, the size, the strength of NBA talent. Like, obviously, the 3-point line in college is a little bit shorter than the NBA 3-point line, so that's an adjustment. But just like the windows that you have to get shots off, like the length of NBA defenders, their ability to jump out and contest, like
yeah,
it's a huge adjustment. Like obviously the mechanics will stay the same, but you have to speed up your shot in order to be the same level of shooter from college into the NBA. So yeah, that sort of thing takes time, and now Grady's made that adjustment, and he's had a fantastic stretch of games here where he's I don't know, I don't have percentages in front of me, but he's shooting a lot better, and
yeah.
it's helping like the rest of his game make sense because for someone like Grady Dick, um, because he's not just a shooter, but he still is in that sort of phase of his development where if the shots aren't falling and if he can't be a threat spacing the floor, then the rest of his game kind of just doesn't really happen for him in the same way. So the fact that he's got his confidence back and he's been able to shoot against NBA defenses has opened up the rest of his game, and yeah, I think next year we could see you know a really nice leap from him.
He's in the right high pressure environment where his game complements everybody around him, and he will be leaned on to produce offensively. And the fact that he, right now, even at this stage in his development, is still not a pylon for defense, I think is a great sign going
Hmm.
forward.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had some articulated questions to
Yes,
ask
yes, I
me.
do, I do. So I wanted to ask you. All right, so you had Keontae in that fifth spot on your first team. What was your second team?
Uh Jesus. Okay, so both Thompson twins for sure. I know like we kind of like hemmed and hawed about it, but like so I think my second team would be Todd, Lively, Whitmore, Thompson twins. I think that's what I would do.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so first question that I have for you: of players not in your top 10, who do you think will have the best career? Not necessarily, who's number 11 on your list, but looking at, guys outside of your all rookie team, who do you think ends up, 10, 15 years from now, with the best career?
See, for me, the best career would be like situationally, like you could say something wild and be like, hell, if like the Pelicans bottom out, trade away everybody, like Jordan Hawkins could go on to be like a scoring leader or something crazy
Hmm.
like that. But I
Okay.
mean, like in terms of like decorated, I don't think any of them are gonna have like I don't think Scoot's gonna be like an MVP or an All NBA talent at the top. Like he could figure it out, but I mean, like could I say like a guy like Isaiah Joe who is on a situation where he could be winning multiple championships by only playing um
Isaiah Joe of the OKC Thunder?
yeah,
He's not a rookie.
or whoever like what like a rookie on the Thunder. That's what I mean. Like there's not a guy that I'm like is gonna have a crazy decorated trophy case.
Well,
Like
it
I
just yeah,
think
the reason I ask is because I feel like Scoot was sort of the name that sticks out, so I was wondering if you would say Scoot. So the fact that you don't
no,
immediately
I
think of
think
him,
I
I
think
think is pretty
the fact
talented
that he
having.
has the fact that he's in a situation like this where he has a guard next to him that is a taller version, a more explosive version, a proven better shooter, and is Canadian, like you're looking at Scoot Henderson, who was supposed to be topped up as like this Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook hybrid who could facilitate, slash to the basket, and hit a step back jumper. He has shown to me that he can get to the basket, not finish, because he has like the most fumbly hands I've ever seen for a guy who's supposed to be super explosive. Like he does not, and I know this sounds terrible, but like he's not. I don't think he will be the best player on their team, even after like Simons is like plateaued or like gone somewhere else. Like, what to you screams that Scoot Henderson's gonna have like you know, a really decorated career? Because I would say, in terms of like players around him, like Shaden Sharp to me will have a better career when it's all said and done.
I think it's somewhat of a hot take, but the fact that it's only somewhat of a hot take is crazy given the expectations that Scoot had coming in. Yeah, like you said, was supposed to be like a Rose, Westbrook, John Morant-esque type of point guard. Just doesn't really have that level of pop and athleticism. Like you see it, he gets to the basket plenty. Like he can blow by guys, but
Yeah. Imagine, like,
Not
here's
like
the
the
other
next
thing.
level, like a Derrick Rose.
They're both 20. They're
Uh-huh.
both the same age. Sharp has, in fact, taken a lesser role for Scoot's like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like more dominant thing, and across the board, Sharp is just like a better player. Like like everything you look down the line, he's just a taller, stronger, same age, better stats. Like everything that I see from Sharp is like, oh, here's the things that Scoot was supposed to be doing in a body of a wing. Like
I'll say
that's
the
just
one thing that Scoot has that I like a lot that can't necessarily teach, like he has natural point guard skills. Like you don't see it a lot in NBA players now. Like it's a dying breed, like this sort of pure point guard, but
yeah,
he has those instincts of like, let's get into this set. Let me get this guy a touch. Let me, create a
yeah.
shot for this guy. He definitely has that. It comes very natural to him. And so if he puts the rest of his game together, like complementing it with that natural skill set, like could it does sort of scream superstar player, but there's a lot for him to put together before we talk about that.
And I like how so like if DeAndre Ayton wasn't his role man, I'm sure he would have a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
assist to turnover ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Because
For
it's
sure.
like I can also like cut him a lot of slack just kind of with the personnel he has around him. Like fuck, did you see how many shots Delano Banton got up in his
Yeah.
career high game?
Yeah.
27% from the field is not something I'd be posting about. But either way,
Career high is a career high.
shout out my boy Delano Banton. But my main point would be is that Scoots the amount of like hype leading into it obviously had to play a part in his like kind of turbulent start, but he
Mm-hmm.
had absolutely like zero expectation to win games in this Portland squad. So the fact that like it took him so long to figure it out, like he was trumped up as like he's gonna come in, dominate, he's gonna come in, immediately be ready for the up and down game of the NBA. He's gonna figure the shot out, he's gonna feed his teammates. Like there were people, and I know this was like a very short time, but there were people who genuinely believe, because, casual hoops fans, that Scoot Henderson would have been a better pick than Wembanyama. So just out there, those people, I hope you have found a new sport to watch, like rugby or something, because like basketball is not your forte. But to make simple of a long, outdrawn argument, I have completely clocked out of Scoot in terms of like, you know, what I thought you were going to be right away. So 3 years from now, I'll check back in, and if he's busting on people's heads, then yeah, great. But if he's doing just a lesser version of what Shaden Sharp's doing at worse efficiency across the board, then I'm just gonna sit here and be like, I'm not moved. I'm unmoved. I'm solidified. I'm a stalagmite. I'm just in position.
I'm not out on him yet. I still feel like he has a lot of upside. He has to figure out, like you said, the fact that he struggles to finish at the rim the way that he does. It's very surprising given the player he was billed as. So, he got a lot to figure out, but I still see some flashes. I still see a skill set, and a body type that I can still see, being an all-star caliber player. Anyone who thought he was going to be better than Wemby is insane. But
Yeah. But those people existed.
they did.
Those
There was
people
a
fucking
small
existed.
corner of people leading up to the draft, but no, I still believe in him. I still believe in him as a high upside young talent. All right, so I want to shift gears and talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, Karl Anthony Towns recently diagnosed with a torn meniscus. There's not an official timetable for his return, but from what I was able to find, he's going to be out for at least a month. It's going to come down to what they decide to do with his meniscus. Obviously, not that I'm a doctor, but there's two main sort of paths to recovery when it comes to a torn meniscus, where you can either remove the meniscus and it's sort of a shorter timeline for the recovery, but it has the long-term ramifications of you no longer have a meniscus, so you're just you're out of cartilage there in your knee, and it's just bone on bone. But the other option is to repair the meniscus, and it takes longer, but you're better off, in the long term. So we'll see what he ends up doing. Obviously, it's gonna be a tight time frame with the playoffs coming up here, but he's going to be out for the very least, the vast majority of the rest of the regular season. So I want to have a discussion about the Timberwolves' chances here at locking up the number one seed, something that I don't believe that they've done in franchise history. They're currently just a half game back of OKC for number one. They have a half game lead on Denver in the number two spot. A team that they play three more times the rest of the season, so obviously that will have a huge implication for standings. And the Clippers are just two games back of the Timberwolves as well, who they play one more time. So Big stretch here for the Timberwolves without Cat. Um, I know you're a notorious Timberwolves hater. You have been for a while now, but what were your thoughts on the Timberwolves' chances of being the number one seed prior to this injury and now with Cat being listed out?
Great alley oop there, Mr. Deja Vu. Gonna make me all right. Anyways, my genuine thoughts because a I've been spreading a lot of anti-Timberwolves propaganda. You
Hmm.
know, I've been that guy out there. I've been betting on Cat not to get his meniscus removed because I think he is Charmin Ultra Soft, and I think that he values too much. He's not about that life. You know, he wouldn't chop off his ring finger to join the Brotherhood of Assassins in Assassin's Creed. So,
Hmm.
here's my big problem with Cat as a whole, and KG has said this, he's not that enforcer. He's not that dominator. He's soft as baby shit. He's not going to be the guy to lead them to the promised land. The promised land being the one seed. So he's gone. So Ant comes in. Ant comes in as the guy who he was my man crush Monday every day of the summer. Literally every day of the summer. I was like, "Oh my god, Ant, you're so fucking good. You're Michael Jordan, bro. This is crazy." I was literally just like if he asked me to a date at the drive-in, he's getting head. Simple as that. No hesitation. But everything came crashing down when the season actually started and he those first 10 games I was like, "Oh yeah. Top 1 SG in the league." And then reality struck. He wasn't actually on the tiers of the Luca and the Shea Gilgeous-Alexanders of the world.
Hmm.
He was closer to like the Pascal Siakam. No, I'm just kidding. He was
No,
he was
yeah,
he
he's
was
better than
he was
Pascal.
closer to like the Devin Booker kind of like echelon of the league where you go, "Hey, he's pretty good, but is he Donovan Mitchell this week or is he, you know, Malachi Flynn?" It's those kind of parallels where I was like, Luca and
Okay,
Shea clear
sure.
him unanimously, and I
Hmm.
kind of it was kind of like a very shocking thing. Like I've tried to trade for Anthony Edwards multiple times in fantasy, and now I'm like, don't touch me with the 10-foot pole, bro. You stay over there. Granted, he's had some like really high highs, like the block where he smacks his fucking dome off the backboard. Beautiful. But in substance, I don't believe Anthony Edwards is, he's gonna just shoulder everything that Cat wasn't doing for the rest of the season and propel them to the first seed. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think, and this is just me spitting. Remember when I said that they don't retain it and they dropped like the fourth seed? It's flashback 2 pods ago when I was like, Denver's gonna be up there, and OKC's gonna be up there. Guess who's a genius? Guess who
Mm.
predicted this shit? It's me. I'm that guy. I'm that guy that traded away Cat, and now his meniscus is gone. I'm that guy who foresaw this happening. So, some call me Yellow Pages because I'm dialed the fuck in on these predictions. I do believe, however, that we will see like a ridiculous kind of like explosive, maybe like 33, 4-6 or something like ridiculous from Ant going
Hmm.
forward. I do think this opens up some more delicious Nas Reed moments, baby. I
Yes, that's
think
what I
I
wanted to
think
get to.
the
Yeah.
minutes are about to go boom to the
Hmm.
moon. I mean, they've already kind of increased, but I think this is the telltale sign of them being like, all right, Nas, you're a full time starter now. All right, you're either at the four or yeah, at the four because McDaniel's is going to be taking up that three. So this lineup that they roll out, I think you already like. Sorry, Kyle Anderson, get your ass to the fucking bench because it's going to be. I mean, like logically, it's Conley and McDaniel's, Nas and Rudy, but part of me also goes like McDaniel's has kind of been like wishy washy in my
Hmm.
opinion. Like I expected a little bit more out of him. I'll get to that
Offensively,
later.
for sure.
Offensively
Yeah.
for sure. But I think like where do you think they fall to? Like is 5 ridiculously low? Is like
Mm.
4 more realistic? Is do they maintain 3? Like what do you think?
I forget what's the gap between 4 and 5. I want to say that the Timberwolves have like a 6 game gap on the Pelicans who are in fifth. Um, yeah, I would be pretty surprised if they fall out of top four. I mean, the
Okay.
the Clippers aren't exactly playing their best basketball right now. They're in a little bit of a downswing. So even for them to pass them, probably not. Like they're probably just gonna get passed by the Nuggets. Like I don't expect them to do well in those three matchups against the Nuggets, because I feel like a big part of what makes the Timberwolves such a matchup problem for Denver is their size, and so obviously they still have plenty of size off the bench, but Cat just losing his 30 plus minutes of being a 7 footer out there and just shifting into smaller lineups. I think that'll just give Denver the edge in those games. So I think they'll pass them up. 2.5 games between the Clippers and the Timberwolves, and then 5.5 games between the Timberwolves and the Pelicans. Yeah, no, I don't think that they fall to five. Would it shock me? I guess not. Um, but no, I think they got home court in the first round pretty solidified. But yeah, I do want to talk about the Nas Reed versus Kyle Anderson thing because I didn't get to watch the Timberwolves Cavs overtime game live, but they did go with Kyle Anderson in the starting lineup for that game. Nas Reed still did play like 30 plus minutes and he had like 34 points. So I do expect him to see a nice uptick, especially just in his usage and his role. Um, but I do feel like he still might be coming off the bench. It feels like that might be the direction they go, just to provide more balance, just keep, like some scoring threats on the bench. Just so you're not like completely barren once you go past the starting lineup offensively. But I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing to start Nas at the four because he's been really good this season. Especially like I was looking up like some lineup numbers without Cat. The Nas and Rudy lineups with no Cat has a 14 net rating, like a plus 14. Actually not really that great offensively, but they have far and away the best ranked defense. Like better, like they already have the number one regular season defense this year. But the numbers with Nas and Rudy and Cat off, like it's even better than that. Like they're miles ahead of the best defense. So
Yeah.
definitely would not be upset with Nas Reed getting starting minutes. I also think that he can sort of help their transition. Um, they don't really get out in transition a ton, but the numbers show that when Cat's off the floor, they definitely run a lot more fast breaks. So interested to see how Nas Reed can impact that. I think Kyle Anderson does too, as someone who can grab and go. Um,
Yeah, go with that. All right, slow mo when he runs the
yeah, in
floor.
slow motion, but like he's
All right.
someone that can grab a rebound and take it
And
out in
actually
transition.
flat out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, not that Cat can't, but not really his tendency,
Oh,
I
he
would
just
say.
doesn't. He's not frequent in doing so.
Yeah.
It's more or less like Cat. To me, Cat's a really weird introspective into like the way that people, because we were moving away from traditional big men, and
Hmm.
now low post game is being so much more appreciated in a weird way. Like the Sabonuses and Shenguns of the world are making it more of an art form rather than like a thing of the past. And I think in terms of frequency, Cat is such an in-betweener because I've seen him operate so much in the mid-range to like kind of like late wing offense this season. But then like, as you just saw, he's much more of a paint presence on defense more than he has been before. So it's like it's a weird paradigm shift for a guy who is so perimeter centric to now play within the 0 to 17 feet range more often. Um I don't know. I feel like the up and down tempo of the Wolves was always something that I was like, man, they don't get out enough. Like they don't flood out the floor enough. They don't really run hard. Like so, in this instance, perhaps, perhaps their transition numbers go up, but it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, they're a whole new team. Like I'm gonna,
Right.
you know, change my perspective of their offense.
Yeah, Nas Reed is not so entirely different from Cat that it's going to be a different team. Like we'll still see the same Timber. Like they're not going to change the defensive coverages. Like we're not going to see a ton change with their philosophies on offense. But yeah, I do think the transition game is something we might see because not that it's something you can really rely on in like a postseason setting, but just another element of their offense that they can get to because that's really been the one thing. Like Cat's been a big part of their offense, but it's kind of been, I guess you could say, their weakness because of how good their defense has been this season. So, just interested to see if they can sort of tap into that a little bit over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it would help them kind of like figure out where they're gonna trickle out in terms of like playoffs too, because like in terms of like Anthony Edwards has a playoff built arsenal.
yeah,
Like
no,
it
no,
is much more built for the slow methodical game of the playoffs. I mean, I won't go as far as to say that, Reed will just immediately plug every single hole that Cat, you know, feels like becomes at that point, but I think they still, it's not like they're going to get just immediately swept at this point.
right,
Like it's
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's enough to still, do some damage. Not win a
Hmm.
series, but do some damage.
Yeah, like okay, so if Cat, let's say that he takes the long term and he misses a first round series, do you think there's still a team they can take down in the first round? You look at 5 through 10 right now in the West.
I mean, like if you are insinuating that, perhaps if they match up against like Dallas, for example, would they win? No. But I do think again, like I don't think there's a team that would like unless they somehow play Denver. I don't think there's a team that just like sweeps them outright. But I do think that it's a very like hard felt battle for you to make a case that the Timberwolves without Cat really do damage. I mean, like with how inconsistent the Pelicans have looked,
Hmm.
yeah, sure.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, if they get the 4-5 matchup with the Pelicans, I can still see them taking them down. I still feel like um they
Like
don't have a great answer for Edwards.
I'll put it like this: they would not beat OKC. Obviously, they wouldn't beat Denver. The Clippers, I understand they've looked inconsistent, but you minus Cat from that scenario.
Yeah,
That's
Cat would
just
be huge in that. So that would be a
that's
huge.
just
Yeah,
less firepower that
yeah,
the Clippers have to deal with. Pelicans very potential. Like I think that's like their best possible matchup because the Kings run them off the floor. In terms of transition, the Kings just
right. Yeah,
annihilate
it's a
the
very
fuck
poor
out of them.
matchup for the Timberwolves. Yeah, without Cat.
The Mavericks, I mean, like you could make the idea that like, Rudy funneling Kai and Luca. Oh my God, I'm
Hmm.
saying Kai. Jesus Christ. Kyrie Irving, funneling them into the lane is enough, but I just think like Dallas has too many wrinkles that, Minnesota has not enough weapons to deal with them. Like you want to say you throw McDaniels on Luca, okay, cool, then Kyrie takes over. Oh, okay, never mind. You want to play heavy switch coverage. Guess what? They're just going to lob to Gafford, who, in my opinion, is probably the best lob threat that Luca's ever played with. So other than like Rookie Lively, you could say Rookie Lively, great
Yeah,
lob
no,
threat.
I would take Gafford. I would take Gafford.
Anyways, I think there's too many wrinkles that Dallas can throw at this Minnesota team. I mean, like the Suns are a joke of a team, so I don't even know if you want to talk about like
With the
sure,
Suns and the Mavs, I feel like those two teams could sweep the Timberwolves without Cat, but they could also lose that series. Like I don't really know what to expect from either of those teams come playoff time. Like it's gonna just depend on
I
how do they
cannot
look.
wait. I
How do
cannot
they
wait
look
for
over
a
like the
Sun
last?
series,
Yeah, I
dude.
don't know.
Oh man.
If they're firing on all cylinders heading into the playoffs, like okay, I'll probably take the Suns to upset someone in the first round, but I have no idea what to expect from them. They're just incredibly inconsistent, incredibly unreliable. I don't really ever feel like I know what I'm getting from them. So I don't know. I could see them absolutely working the Timberwolves in the right circumstance, but I could see the Timberwolves surviving as well. So
Yeah.
and then
It's
like
just
Lakers
my
Warriors, like those are not serious teams. I'm
I
serious.
was gonna say, like,
Uh,
I don't want to shit too much on the Lakers and the Warriors collectively, but
but
like,
yeah,
if you're gonna stay, like, if you're a Lakers fan and you're like, we just gotta get there, bro, we just gotta get there. It's like you're the 10th seed right now. I think the
yeah,
plan will be the downfall of your existence. Like, if the Lakers have to play the Mavericks, oh, oh, buddy, I would not. There would be no more poetic justice than somehow Kyrie beating the Lakers in a tournament like that.
that
Like,
would be sending them
could
home. That would
could
be
you
great.
imagine D'Angelo Russell being like, "Guys, I did it. I proved that I could be your starting point guard," and then Kyrie Irving's like, "Wow, goodbye, D'Lo. See
Yeah,
you
that
later,
would be great.
buddy."
I think no matter how it shakes out, I think the West playing tournament is going to be fantastic. There's just a lot of big names in those teams that are towards the bottom there. It's gonna be really interesting no matter how it shakes out. Those elimination games, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, I am a big fan of the playing tournament. I think it's been good for the NBA. Um, let's move to our next topic. Let's talk about your Toronto Raptors. Some more
Whoa.
unfortunate injury
You
news.
want to talk about the Toronto Raptors, do you? Well, say no more. We'll talk about the Toronto Raptors.
There we go. So yeah, more unfortunate injury news. The great Scottie Barnes looks like he. I don't know. Actually, is there? I don't feel like I've seen an official timeline. It feels like they might
He's
just
not
hold him
coming
out.
back. He's not coming
Yeah, it
back.
feels
Like
like he's
it's for all the people speculating, like, oh, he could suit up for the last 10 games. They're for them to retain that top six pick, like they're not going to bring him back. That's just
right.
it'd
Yeah,
be
it depends
stupid
on.
to.
Yeah, it depends on what they want to do with their pick because there is some I think logical thinking in that if you're the Raptors, you want to just be number 7 and just give up the pick and just get rid of the obligation and just move forward with that and just have control of your picks moving forward. But um, it's tough to just give up a top 10 pick like that in the moment. So getting in that top 6 could be the path they take. And yeah, if that's the case, then Scotty Barnes absolutely will not play the rest of the season.
I would say there are some Raptors fans out there who kind of disbelieve in this draft in its whole. Like, don't get me wrong, there is no Wembanyama in this draft. There is no Chet. There is no guy where you're like, he will change a franchise. Like he's gonna be a fucking multiple time all NBA player. Like, no.
Yeah.
There are really intriguing building blocks, and the Raptors within that top six have like Cody Williams would be a very welcomed addition to Toronto. Ron Holland would be a very welcomed addition to Toronto. Is it the straw that breaks the camel's back? No. It's not the guy that's going to chain. Like, it's not the. There is no player in this draft that realistically Toronto can get that will change them from a 30-win team to a 50-win team. That's just not. There's not that guy
Yeah,
in this draft.
there's not like a cornerstone guy. There's
Yeah,
maybe some guys that could be, but there's no clear like, yeah, you draft this guy and now you're building around him right away.
yeah. So if you again, because it's all about the lottery. If you don't get that 46% roll and then the Spurs get pick number 6, like, okay. Like now you now you have cap space, you own the rest of your picks, you kind of have a core of who you're going to build. Like BBQ is going to be your core anyway.
Hmm.
So, adding a 19-year-old to that might not even be a smart idea. What you might want to do is once you have everybody locked down, because remember, RJ's already locked down. You're going to give Scottie his extension. You have the money to retain IQ. What do you do with Gary Trent Jr.? You have Abaji and you
Get
have
him
Grady.
out of there,
But
man.
this no,
I've seen enough of I've seen
I'm
enough of
giving
Gary
you
Trent
I'm
Jr.
talking to you as in this is what they're gonna do because I'm a genius, remember?
Ah, right, right,
So
right.
Gary Trent Jr. is going to the Orlando Magic.
Okay, yeah, I'm with that.
They extended Kelly, which I love for the culture. That's such a good culture
Yeah,
move.
nice little piece of business. It was like 2 for 26.
Yeah. And
Nice little Kelly
so
Olynyk extension. I like that.
after all said and done, so if you give quickly, I think it was the 25% of the cap is what his max extension could be.
Yeah.
Either way, so if you give quickly his extension, you pretty much consolidate the fact that, hey, Garrett Jr., see you the fuck later, buddy.
Are we? Wait, let me stop you. Are we okay with that? Are we just quickly getting the max and we're not even hesitating? Is that where we're at with it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Okay. Just
if
checking
you
in.
if
Just
you
checking in.
polled 150 NBA fans who saw what Quickly was doing when he started with the Knicks, who saw the same Quickly go for 18 assists, who have
Hmm.
seen Quickly in the past 15 games finally get his floater back, finally get his downhill momentum back, get his in-step shooting back, I think you say, yeah, like there's your, and it may not even be the one guard that you run with going forward. Like he may be played at the two. Either way, if you don't give Quickly that, like if you somehow lose Emmanuel Quickly, sell the whole fucking team,
Oh
bro.
well, yeah, of course, yeah. You don't let him walk. I'm just taking a temperature. I didn't know where we're at with that because, yeah, he did have a great game against the Hornets, 18 assists, but he hasn't like taken necessarily the like step forward I was looking for. Like I feel like I was expecting that with a bigger role, we would see him sort of evolve into another player. I still feel like he's the same player who was very good. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved Emmanuel quickly in New York, but it just feels like he's got a new uniform on, is all. And I was maybe just expecting him to take a step forward with the game. Um, so I don't
Do
know.
you
I
want
mean,
do you want the last 10, 15, and 20 stats, or you good to just sit with that take?
you can give him to me. Go ahead.
All right. So last 10, and kind of fucking blistering if you think about it. That jump that you were talking about. So 19, 7 assists, 2 turnovers, 6 boards, 85% from the free throw line, 40% from three, only 44% from the field, but 34 minutes a game. He's being utilized the way he should be utilized. He's
Well, yes, yeah.
creating his offense and also getting everyone else involved. I think the jump happens next year because, again, he's only got like
Hmm.
24, 27 games under his belt as a Raptor. Like, I'm not going to be like too pressed if he's not like a 24 a game scorer by the end of the season. Like, I also don't think he's that player. I think he's much more of a downhill. And this is, if you were to give him a 2K archetype, you know, I think he would be like a primary, like a slashing creator who uses his downhill pressure to create for others, but that's not his first inkling is to pass. His first inkling is to hunt for his shot. So it very much is a Tyrese Maxey esque player, Tyrese Maxey light, if you would. And that's perfect. Like if that's the player he is, that's perfect. Like if he's able to chip in 25, 4 with good efficiency, boom. Like
Yeah.
that's and
I would
and and
say
realistically, that's the money that you pay those kinds of players anyway. Like,
fair. Yeah. And honestly, I didn't realize this, but like the numbers do show like a pretty big jump. He only was averaging 2.5 assists this season with the Knicks. That's up to 6.5 in the 28 games with the Raptors. So that is there. I just feel like when I watch him, I don't know, maybe it was just unrealistic for me to expect that just because he's on a new team now. He's gonna like play like look like a different player. But um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see it next year because I do feel like he has the potential to be, um, like you said, like an above a 20 point per game scorer. So we'll see. I mean, he's been good so far. I just didn't know if we were just all in, giving him the max, no problem. But okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
I think if you don't give him the max, like I personally, if I'm Emmanuel quickly, he's at the point where culturally everybody's embraced him, where
mhm,
the team looks to him as like a potential closer. Like everything points to quickly wanting to be there long term and Toronto wanting to maintain him. There was a reason he was the sweet spot of that trade.
right.
Fucking RJ has like reinvented himself as a player, which is ridiculous. Like
Yeah, see, that's someone who looks like a different player in a new
on my
uniform.
bingo
Yeah.
card, if it was RJ Barrett becoming like an actual winning contributor, that I would have been like, throw
Yeah,
that
not
card the
not
fuck
on
out.
there. Yeah,
Like,
right,
no.
right.
But somehow he has. And here's what I don't understand. So his shooting from the field, his mid range, his floater, his at the basket shooting, up. 3-point shooting, volume and efficiency, up. Free throw shooting, what the fuck?
Yeah, his
What
splits,
the
he has like a
fuck?
higher field goal percentage than free throw percentage
Yeah.
or something.
And
It's
if you
yeah.
look at he is a great rim runner all of a sudden, a fantastic slasher. He has legitimately had like great posters this season with the Raptors and I've been like who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like he's doing all the things where you go and you're like you're not taking away from everybody else on the offense like you were on the Knicks and your baskets are coming like organically. Like the amount of times Jakob and Scottie have hit him on a backdoor lob has been like this is
Mm,
RJ Barrett. Like he's looking
right.
back to his like 2019 days. Damn.
Yeah,
But
the way that he's just fit in has been really impressive. Like not really what I thought. I was worried about if he was just gonna be sort of the way he was with the Knicks, like just kind of over here doing his thing, not really flowing within the offense. Just kind of like when he gets the ball, it's like, all right, I guess this is an RJ Barrett possession now, and
yeah,
just kind of see what he does. But yeah, like you said, like his cuts to the rim, like that's not really something I feel like I remember seeing much of at all, really, with the Knicks. So,
not
um,
ask shut up booming basketball. Ask
mhm.
how often he stood on the wing
Yeah,
just waiting for the ball to come
yeah,
to him.
yeah,
Now his
absolutely.
like backdoor action is like intricate. It's like
Hmm.
Rubik's cube level like I'll fake the horn screen and then I'll come through a pin down, but instead I'm actually screening for Grady's man. Grady will flare up to the wing for a three, and then RJ will come for the lob, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
basketball
Yeah,
renaissance
yeah,
right
yeah, it's great stuff. I think a lot of the credit in that instance goes to Darko, the head coach, because I've loved what I've
now.
seen
Okay,
from
you
him
had
this
to be
season.
like, Darko, you know that guy who
Yeah, you know,
coaches the
by the way, he's
Raptors?
the head coach. Yeah, yeah, I like a lot what I've seen from him. Like I've watched a ton of his like post game interviews, the press conferences, and I love how he seems to be connecting with the players. Like he's very just like open and honest with like his expectations for players and his role for them and that sort of thing. Um, he just seems to be doing a great job of getting the most out of this group. And I think the RJ thing is a prime example of that because we were not getting any of that from Tom Thibodeau. He was not getting RJ to cut whatsoever. And I don't know if it was scheme or just an unwillingness, but we're seeing a new RJ in Toronto, and a lot of that I think has to do with coaching. So shout out to Darko. He's been great.
I think the amount of people that were up in arms when Darko referred to Scottie as, the next face of the league, it is such a nice breath of fresh air to go from, and Nick Nurse, you do your thing. I know you have your own schemes, but it's so refreshing from a coach from going from, they have to be better. They have to, I can only do so much. It's the players that have to be better. To a coach that's like, these guys are fantastic. They run hard, they play hard, they reward each other. I've got the franchise face of the league on my team. I've got a team of cohesive players that play together and love each other and love commitment. The fact that he on air, first of all, started going on like his native tongue is not English, so
Yeah,
his rant, the actual like passion
I
behind
know.
his
Yeah,
love
yeah,
for
yeah.
his guy,
Right,
I was like, that's my fucking coach right there. That's
right.
my fucking boy standing up, he's in the trenches for the boys. he's down there being I wouldn't be surprised if like sometime next year Scott Foster tees him up and he just fucking like takes off the button up and just starts fucking squaring up with Scott Foster. He's like, "What did you
Yeah,
say about quickly?"
the rant that he had, I think it was primarily about Scottie, but like the free throw rant he had when they played the Lakers was amazing. And you can tell like his guys definitely like that's the type of guy like you want to run through a wall for. Like you could tell he's got the guys bought in. So that's been a great hire. Like he's been fantastic. He's fun fact the only NBA coach without playing experience. But well, it's worked out, so good for him.
The more you know. Also,
Yeah.
I like how more teams now are adopting that because again, he didn't invent the trend of at the end of the game, the chain of the game, dapping the boys up. Let's go out for fucking KBBQ later. He didn't invent that,
Hmm.
but now so many teams are hopping on that wave after he like
Right.
publicized it. It's fucking awesome.
You know what he
Like,
did invent? The pizza party after the 3 game win streak. That was fantastic. That was amazing. I remember just seeing like one Instagram post about it,
and
like
you're like,
20 games
surely
into
this
the
can't be
season,
real,
where it was
right?
like, oh yeah, head coach Darko, I don't know, Rajakovic, is that how you say it? Whatever. It
Honestly,
was
I
like
just call him Darko at this point.
yeah, it was like Raptors head coach promises the team a pizza party out of his own pocket if the team goes on a 3 game win streak. And I was like, wow, the Raptors are really that down bad. But then they finally did reach a 3 game win streak the other day, and it was like, wow, the vibes on this team are just fantastic right now.
Yeah,
So, despite the record, like I would say this has been a pretty successful Raptors season. They finally were able to hit the button and reset things. The head coach hires worked out. They've got their franchise centerpiece in Scottie, face of the league according to the head coach. So. Yeah, I would say
the
things are
layup.
going pretty well for the Raptors, and regardless of what happens with the pick, I think they feel a lot better, moving forward than they did a year ago. So
There's a clip circulating that so the Bell does like the Open Bell Network stuff with the Raptors. There's a clip circulating where it's Darko, it's Marcus Noel, it's Freeman Liberty, it's a bunch of like the G League guys, and they're at a Korean barbecue place, and they're just like they're sloshed as fuck clearly, like they're pounding back sake like there's no tomorrow, and then Freeman Liberty mentions that there's like a charcoal ice cream place down the road, and Darko's like charcoal ice cream. What's that? And they're like, it's like ice cream that has like infused charcoal. And he like gets up and he's like, we gotta get ice cream like right now. Like literally, like Darko gets up and they go and get ice cream, and it's fantastic.
wait, what is this
Everybody,
charcoal ice cream? That's
yeah, it's a so Toronto. Shout out all my man dem out
yeah,
there,
I'm
all my race
American.
man
Sorry, go ahead,
youths.
explain this to me.
So there's a whole bunch of places in downtown Toronto where you can get what's called charcoal infused ice cream. If you didn't know, charcoal is a very potent teeth whitening agent that a lot of people use. It's just like finely granulated
True.
charcoal.
Yeah.
They imbue it with both like lavender flavored vanilla ice cream, like all these ice cream flavors. They imbue the charcoal in it, and it's funny because it gives the ice cream like a jet black color, but
Uh-huh.
the flavor is not what the color is. So your brain is all like fucked up, being like, was this red velvet? Is this lavender? Is this vanilla? It's fucking
Okay.
awesome. I've personally been there myself, and I
Yeah.
got shout out to Panda Ice Cream down Victoria Avenue, Toronto. It has they have lychee flavored ice cream, and I don't even know what the fuck lychee is, but it's delicious, and it's jet black because of the charcoal.
So are
I
you? It doesn't taste any different?
No, it has like almost like a texture of like grit, I guess would be the
Uh-huh.
best way to
So is it
describe it.
cleaning your teeth?
I don't know if it actually does that. That's just what it's claimed as, but
Because
it's just a funny concept, right? Like it's like
yeah, that doesn't. I don't know. Like I remember I went to go visit my sister a few months ago, and she had charcoal toothpaste, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" She's like, "Oh yeah, it's really great for whitening your teeth." And I tried it, and it worked. Like yeah, it was great.
exactly,
So I'm
exactly.
wondering,
Shout
is
out
that why
your
we're
German sister. There we
yeah,
go.
is that why we're putting it in the ice cream? Is it teeth whitening ice cream, or what do we? I don't know. Very
Listen,
interesting. I
man.
don't know. Canada's got a lot of weird food things going on,
Listen,
at
I'm gonna
least
bring
for
you
my American palate. But I don't know.
when when we do the Vegas trip. I'll bring you the little maple candies. The
Fantastic.
fucking
Great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bring me all the Canadian goodies. All right, we have one more topic to get to before we get out here. We spent a few minutes talking about your Raptors, so I figured we spend a few minutes talking about my Celtics. Um,
yeah. Here he
not
is.
yeah, not a great feeling right now for Celtics Nation. I think we're on top of the world for a minute there, 11 game win streak. I think had they beat I forget what it was. It's like had they beat the Raptors by at least like 17 or 18, it would have been point differential wise, it would have been like the greatest 12 game stretch in NBA history, something like that. So they were playing pretty damn well. But a couple of really disappointing losses back to back.
Just hiccups. Just hiccups. Not.
I'm gonna tell you that I forget. I forget. I wish I remembered what the page was because it'd be a lot funnier. But there's an Instagram page that I follow that was commenting on like every like ESPN, Bleacher Report, every single page that was posting like the results of these Celtics games, talking about, oh, this is only their first back-to-back loss of the season. Like they'll be fine. They'll recover, something like that. The same like copy and paste comment he just kept putting everywhere. So yeah, there's some Celtics fans that are coping right now, saying, oh, it's just a small stretch, but the loss of the Cavs and the loss of the Nuggets just point to what has been, the problem with the Celtics team dating all the way back to really, I mean, just the beginnings of the JB JT era. Like ever since, like it's been even like Kyrie, Hayward, Horford, like those days. It's been the same problems with the team just not being able to execute down the stretch of these big games. Um, a lot of that I think falls on Tatum's shoulders at the end of the day, given that he's supposed to be the leader of this team. But no one is really clear a fault here, except for like Porzingis, because he Porzingis can
Porzingis
do
gets
no
a
wrong.
pass.
Porzingis can do no wrong, but just it's like obviously all the talking points we know about Tatum. Oh, his MVP campaign's over. Oh, he's a fraud. Oh, that dude, I don't know who he is, but that dude that makes like TikTok videos that kind of looks like him that people always pull up
Yeah,
whenever
yeah,
Tatum doesn't play well.
yeah.
It's been all of that over the past week or so, but it's really not just him. It's a team wide issue. Bringing in Drew Holiday doesn't solve that issue. Bringing in Joe Mazzulla doesn't solve that issue. It's been the same problem for a
What? I
long
thought
time.
that was the answer to all of your problems.
Yeah, yeah. So it was claimed, but no. The Celtics continue to fumble away these close games, and it's just I don't know. I can talk about how frustrating it is as a fan, whatever. I think we all obviously know that, but it just makes you doubt, makes you reconsider whether or not they should be the clear cut favorite in the East because all season that's been the talking point. The Celtics are at the top of the East. It's them and then everyone else. People even saying that across the league, like they're the best team, and it's everyone else after that. Clearly not. Clearly not. They were outclassed by Denver, in a game that, by all means, like it should have been the Celtics. Like they missed a bunch of free throws. They missed a bunch of opportunities at the rim, which you can point to in every game for the most part. But this was not a game that the Celtics did their best and just came up short. No, this was a game that they absolutely failed to execute. And they lost a game that they shouldn't have. And it's just too many of these games at this point to really, and not to say to take them seriously, because I do still take them seriously as a contender, but no longer will you hear me say anything along the lines of the Celtics are the clear favorites or it's them and everyone else. They're a cut above. None of that because they haven't earned that. They have not proven that really at any point that matters. So that's my Celtics rant.
I think for all the clickbait Bill Simmons out there that are going to be like, did we just see a finals preview of the Denver Nuggets and Celtics and how crazy it could get? It's like, all right. So everything that the Celtics have done up to this point has kind of led me to be like, oh, like they are a cut above the rest, quote unquote, in terms of like the East. But everything else has kind of made me go like the Tatum crunch time issue is a touchy subject when you talk to Boston fans because Timothy Tatum cannot do anything wrong. He's the MVP. He's only 19. He can do no wrong. It's like how many times is a player going to be like because if you ask the average passerby, they'll probably say, "Oh, I've seen Tatum hit like clutch fucking buckets, man.
Hmm.
Like I know he can close games." And then if you just for example, like as you can see, Tatum right now is fucking cooking. Like this is the version of Tatum that we need. Like
But
this
move your shirt
version,
down a little bit. Oh, okay, that
this
actually isn't
this
overtime. Okay,
this
those are
version of
overtime
Tatum,
highlights.
mutant, as you can see, this version of Tatum quite literally does cook.
Hmm.
But what happens to him in the fourth quarter? In his regular season games, it seems like there's like a paradigm switch. It seems like the foot is off the gas. And
Hmm.
it's I don't know how to explain it other than watching these games. It feels like he doesn't exactly. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. It feels like these very close games, like the Celtics game and the Denver game there, like it didn't really feel like Tatum was giving it his all. And I don't know what like is it going to come out in a couple weeks that like he's coasting because of like the way that the Celtics
No,
have
I don't
dominated the
think
regular
it's like a
season?
I don't think it's like a
Like
current issue. I think it's like Tatum. definitely specifically, but team wide, like I've never seen a more tangible like this team just took the foot off the gas over these
That's
last
what I
60
mean. It
minutes.
it is it is
Like
literally like everybody just kind of goes.
yeah, within games you can see them just sort of like shift gears in a way that I can't recall any other team ever doing this. Where it's just so obvious you can tell they're up 17 with 3 minutes left in the third, and all of a sudden the whole the pace of the game changes, their offensive sets change. A lot of standing around, a lot of just like draining the shot clock. Just like the whole playing not to lose instead of playing to win. I see it all the time. And then a lot of the times, they'll end up sneaking one out. The team gets the deficit down to like six or whatever. Then the Celtics are like, oh shit. And then, they turn it on and they figure it out because they are a lot better than a lot of other teams. But when it comes to a game like the Cavs or the Nuggets, you can't do that, because the Cavs are pretty damn close when it comes to just talent levels. So you can't just rely on that. Um,
You know what it
so
feels like? And I know this is like a crazy comparison, but it kind of feels like flashback to when you guys took a game off of the Warriors in the finals. And you could see Mr. Wardell Stephen Curry come into the next game like a fucking animal. Like you could feel a different kind of energy. And I feel like what is happening with the Celtics in these final like 5 minutes of games is like they don't, like you said, they don't care. They don't want to lose, or they don't want to win more than they don't want to lose.
yeah, they don't really seem to seize the moment and really
Yeah.
capture and be like, oh, like I always refer to Tatum as like a 2K created superstar because he's just like a 6'8" generic looking dude. Like you don't really know a ton about him other than he's like a father and he likes Kobe. His skill set is very just like basic three-level scorer, solid defender,
Well, it
whatever.
literally it literally is like it's like what is his signature go to, and everyone's like,
The sidestep three, I guess. But it's just like he's such like a two-career player, and then it's like we get into the last 5 minutes of these games, and he's still like got 2K brain, and he just takes these like turnaround fadeaways with 5 seconds left in the game, and it's just like I don't know. I've seen this meme like circulate a few times before. It's like if Jason Tatum ever realizes that he's
six
built more like
seven.
LeBron and not Steph Curry, um, yeah, it's really it's inexplicable the way that Tatum specifically, but the team as a whole just cannot figure out these late game situations. It's really I don't want to say it's a disaster because the team's like 46-12, but it's such a huge issue that until they solve like I don't think they're going to win a finals. Ultimately, these last two games doesn't like change my outlook on the East. I still feel like the Celtics are the best team. I would still predict that they're going to make it out of the East and get to the finals. But they've just done nothing to reassure me in terms of their downfalls, their pitfalls come playoff time. I don't know. They've done nothing to boost my confidence outside of just the collective talent that they have. Like I would say that they bought in collectively, because when you have so many talented players on a team, like there has to be buy-in and sacrifice, and they've done that. But they've had opportunities to prove that they've moved past their issues of the past, and they've just failed in those opportunities. They do look better in certain aspects. Like Jalen Brown is probably having the best defensive season of his career. A lot of
He
Tatum's
has a
numbers
left
are up.
hand, everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like a lot of things are going well and they are proving some things like KP finding his role in such a great way. Like just how seamless that has been. Great. But at the end of the day, the only thing I was really worried about with this team outside of health, is those late game scenarios. And they had two prime examples, two prime opportunities to prove that they've moved forward with that and they just haven't. So yeah, I think all is okay, all is just fine in Celtics world, but this was an opportunity to really prove themselves and really make a statement, and they clearly are pretty much the same team that they were. Um, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, for my sake, hopefully they hit their threes and they just don't have any close playoff games and they just cruise to the finals. That would be ideal. But
Yeah, man. The
when
can't
it
miss
gets
strategy has not failed the
exactly,
Celtics
yeah,
yet.
yeah. If they can just stick with the can't miss strategy for like 4 weeks, that would be fantastic. But we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out. One last piece of news before we get out of here. Unfortunately, it is more injury news. It's the third time in this pod we're going to talk injuries, but the Pacers' Ben Mathurin was just ruled out for the rest of the season. He's going to have a surgery to repair a torn labrum in his shoulder, which is unfortunate because I don't think we actually mentioned Scottie Barnes will likely miss the rest of the season due to a fractured hand. So it's not like anything that we have to worry about in terms of him coming back and being healthy for next
Yeah.
season. Like
Like darn, those Raptors finals hopes are gone now.
yeah, like
Like
it's not like it's going to impact his long term anything. So he'll be fine. The shoulder I would say is a little bit more concerning, especially for a shooting guard. Um, this is not ideal, but he will miss the rest of the season. I think between this and moving off of Buddy Hield, I feel like the Pacers aren't really looking at this season as do or die for them. Like they're going to get into the playoffs or at the very least the play-in tournament. And I think they just feel good about that because yeah, now with Ben Mathurin being out, like that's just
yeah.
another guy down, and obviously, defensively that's not really their calling card. But this is just another offensive weapon that they're now losing. So, um, it's unfortunate for the Pacers, but I don't really feel like like I feel like they were first round exits at best, regardless. So not maybe like the end of the world, but it is unfortunate news because Ben Mathurin was he's playing pretty well and he's building on what was a good first year and it just sucks to see him miss such a what's going to be a big stretch of games here.
Yeah, I mean, if if indie fans were like, "Oh boy, like this is our Eastern Conference Finals run here," it's like, nah, that wasn't
No,
gonna happen
not yet,
anyway.
not yet.
It's unfortunate because I think Matherin's Matherin's trajectory to me has been really volatile,
Hmm.
especially because like there's some nights where I'm like for example, the adamancy of being like they're not letting him go in any trade that happens like for the past 2 years has it's like they believed he was their guy. Like that's their guy. He's going to be the guy next to Hallie, and they're going to build around him. And he's showcased that, like, yeah, he could be. But he's also had moments where I'm like, is this like the best developmental path for him to be on? Like, is he going to actually be the player that people expect him to be? And I'm still like, I'm very much Matherin's like I'm in his corner. As a fellow Canuck, I gotta believe in him. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it's like I can't help but wonder, like, if there's going to be like so many flashes playing next to a guy like Halliburton that aren't realized because of the system he's in. Like, we all talk about how Nash-esque Halliburton is, but he still dominates the ball a lot.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
for Mathurin, he strikes me as a guy who, like, once he's in rhythm and gets his touches, yeah, he can put up big numbers, but like unless you're also going to be like really expecting like Jarris Walker to potentially be like that other guy that you pair with. For some reason, you guys were reluctant to give him up, but then don't play him. Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
it doesn't make any it's weird. That doesn't really make sense to me. So are you saying that Mathurin, like, if you went to a different situation, had a bigger role, he could blossom into that? Or are you saying because he plays with Halliburton, he maybe shows some flashes that aren't real?
I think so like to kind of rectify my statement, I think next to Halliburton, he might look a little more dressed up than he actually is at the moment.
Hmm.
I think he's enabled to be a little more successful um without the ball in his hands because Halliburton's such a great gravitational threat. And in the same token, I don't think in terms of his personal development, it shows him the best potential path that he could be on. I'm not saying like obviously he's not being moved right now because like they were so adamant about keeping him that he's going to be a part of this Pacers team going forward. But it really makes you wonder like at what point do the flashes fade from like very tantalizing to okay, they're just going to continue to be flashes. Like he wasn't a younger rookie coming in. Like that's kind of the whole thing of Matherin was like he's a guy that was going to like come right in and be not a piece of like immediate impact, but you looked at him like 30 games in and you were like, oh yeah, like this guy was putting up 30 dubs. Like this guy was going to show you the kind of creation that you expect. And not to say that he hasn't shown like a stark improvement, but his game to me is pretty much just mirroring versions of the game that I've already seen from him. Like I'm not blown away by like a jump. Like he has not had that kind of jump where I'm like, oh yeah. that's the reason that Indiana hasn't moved on from him, or that's the reason they didn't
Right.
have him as part of a
Yeah, yeah.
blockbuster trade. He's just shown me that he has good moments. That's pretty much all I've seen from Mathurin so far.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. He came in right away, and challenged Paolo for Rookie of the Year in the first half of the season, and has kind of just been the same guy since then. He's had his ups, he's had his downs, just like cold and hot shooting stretches. But yeah, hasn't had like a leap, hasn't had a stretch of games where you feel like, oh, this is the type of player he could be down the line. He just needs the consistency. He has been pretty consistent. It's just, he's maybe not that caliber of player. Obviously, just 2 years in, we're not just gonna like be out on him as being
No,
any
but
better than he is now. But yeah, I agree with you that he hasn't really had the sort of like star upside that you would think that, what was he, number 6 or number 7 pick? Someone that, was borderline untouchable in all these trade talks. So yeah, I'm with you on that. He's been good, but like nothing really more than that, which is kind of what you would wanted for, the role that they've kind of positioned him in to be sort of like the running mate with Halliburton. I think, he could absolutely be like a six man, like relative to like what Buddy Hield did for them. Skill set is different, obviously, but I could easily see him sliding into that type of role. But, um, 20 to 25 points per game sort of upside is, maybe a different conversation. So, yeah, I'm
like
with you on that.
I don't want to overblow it and say like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it he might not ever get there, but to
hmm
me, the more that I watch him, the more that I think that like that ceiling might be more unattainable, but the floor might be more realistic
Right.
where he could be like a 20 a game guy, but he's more likely like a sub like 18, 17 kind of thing with good efficiency when he's locked in and then like torches other teams' benches.
hmm
I really like to boil it down to like all said and done kind of thing. I like the idea that you could put anybody next to Halliburton and he'll squeeze the most out of. Um, I just I'm more or less questioning Indiana's path to get to those players like success because they were so keen on making sure that Walker wasn't going anywhere, and then like still proceed to play Jalen Smith over him, still proceed to give him like a really short leash. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, I'm gonna covet this prize, like this monkey's paw, but I'm not gonna use it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Jarris Walker is 15th on the team in minutes per game. He's played 22 games this season. Ben Shepherd, who was a second round pick for the Pacers, plays more than him. He's played twice as many games and he gets more minutes per game. Obi Toppin and Jalen Smith both basically play twice as many minutes per game as Jarris Walker does. Doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense for them to, clearly covet him and value him very highly based on where they drafted him and the unwillingness to include him in trade talks. But I don't know. They just refuse to unleash him in any sense. Like he hasn't really gotten any amount of consistent run. Like you said, the short leash as well. Like I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I didn't love the pick to begin with, but fine. Like you fall in love with the guy on draft night, and you take him, great. But play him, give him an opportunity. You should give him a chance to showcase, everything that you think he clearly has. It's been weird. It doesn't really make sense to me at all.
that's what I mean. If you're going to go as far as to say that he is like essentially untouchable in your trade talks when you're trying to like Pascal Siakam, for example, if you're going to go as far as to be like, we wouldn't even consider putting Jarris Walker in there, then he should be playing 25 to 30 minutes a night. If you're going to really say that this is one of the building blocks of your future,
hmm
like where do you draw the line between developing a guy and then being like, well, we're gonna stash him away a little bit in the G League for him to develop there. It's like
Right.
at some point, man, you got to give him real NBA minutes. You got to
Yeah,
give him
he's
more than
he's
a 15
logged
minute spurt.
he's logged more than 20 minutes in a game 3 times this season. Two of those instances he didn't play in the game before or the game after. So yeah, just no sense of consistency in his role. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they expect him to develop into, kind of like they're one of their power forwards of the future if they're not going to give him any chance in his first season, because not only are you missing development opportunities, but I think at some point you start to talk about like confidence. As someone who was, the eighth overall pick, you're not getting minutes. Like at some point that starts to get to you. Like, why am I not playing? Like, have I not earned it? Like, what's going on? And that can sort of, start to snowball. So definitely would like to see him getting minutes. You look at like the East playoff race, the Pacers can't just, wipe their hands clean and say, all right, we've locked the top 10 seed and we're good. So they can't just completely tank and just lean into playing all their young guys and just not really worrying about the results. But with Ben Mathurin out now, pretty clear they're not really doing much when the playoffs do roll around. Like they really need to lean into giving like the Jarris Walkers of the world more minutes. Like they are in the mix. Like they're a half game away from the six seed. So Rick Carlisle leading the way. I'm sure he's going to want to play his veterans more so. Um, but I don't think the Nets are catching you. You know what I mean? Like I don't think you're going to slip to 11. You can afford to experiment a little bit and see what you got moving forward because um this season they're not doing much, but there's definitely potential for them to figure some things out and go into next year, you know, as a team with real aspirations.
Completely agree. I was I was coveted about Jarris Walker becoming a Raptor for that Siakam trade,
Mhm.
and when it didn't happen, I expected them to be like, okay, well, like Jarris Walker now is going to get some runs at the three, obviously, like he's going to be playing more on the wing because he's a bigger guy, but he's a fluid athlete and
Yeah,
very
he could
capable of
probably
doing
play
that.
some small forward. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they're like, we're going to
Like
bury you
yeah,
in rotation. It's like,
actually go play for the Mad Ants. That's their G League team, right? I think
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the only reason
it's
you
been
know
weird.
that is because of the 2K storyline.
Oh, no, actually, I know it. Yeah, I remember that, but no, no,
I
I brush
fucking
up on my G
torched that
League
Mad
stuff.
Ants team, dog. I was like, get fucked.
Is that the same one where they had that guy playing in like Japan or whatever with the red hair, the dragon or whatever he was?
Yes, the
Is that
dragon
one?
that did like the 360
Yeah,
East Bay
yeah,
over
yeah.
people. Oh yeah, that was the
Yeah,
good
good times,
shit.
good times. Uh, all right, I think that wraps it up for this episode. This has been fun. Mitch, I love the backgrounds. I think we're only going to keep getting better with the visual experience. Like this is very much a work in progress, but I think we have a lot of potential here with what we've got going on Mitch's side. So
Listen, ain't nobody bringing you to the game like we are, all right? We're
exactly.
bringing you next level entertainment.
Hmm.
Stop the TikTok doom scroll, stop the Instagram reel doom scroll. Lock in for this visual because I promise you, one of these times, I'm gonna have an OnlyFans leak for one frame, one singular frame right in the background, and you got to pay real close attention to the entire pod to get it. All right?
Oh man. I love it. I love it. All right, that'll do it for this one. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll be back once again next week with another episode. But until then, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the weekend.